Good morning, everyone. It's Wednesday, my dudes. Oh, it's so good to be here. So good to be here and on track and everything going well. And I have a delicious blend of coffee here. And my plunger of doom. It says there's 0 people watching on the YouTube thing, but there's a bunch of people commenting at the same time. I don't believe you, YouTube. I think you're lying to me. All right. So, how's everybody going? Hope everything's going well. I've got my my dragon shilling for me today, so I don't have to mention that this is a monetized channel and super chats are enabled. And I will live stream for food. Because the dragon is... he takes care of the greedy thing for me, because that's what dragons do, right? I'm trying to put this coffee thing down without making thumping sounds for a microphone. Kiwi daiquiri. We do not mix kiwi daiquiris. Kiwi daiquiris are disgusting. Just out of screen. Well, he's right there. Oh, you mean the daiquiri's just out of screen? You sure it was Tuesday? What is going on? What is going on with you? It's another... yeah. Hi, Basit. It's another glorious day on Toril. Indeed. I am alive, in fact. I'm even getting some sunshine. And if you listen very carefully, you can hear the sound of guinea fowl having their springtime shenanigans outside. Shut up. Is there a canonical way to counterfeit a soul? Wow. Boy, that's a good question. Let's see. Counterfeit a soul. I think probably one of the easiest ways to do that would be to use the clone spell and possibly a soul jar. I'm not entirely sure if the soul jar, if the clone spell creates a clone with a soul or not. I don't know if it does. That's a tricky one. I'm going to go with magic and something. Hurricane Michael. Oh, wow. Okay, that's news to me. Oh, that's a very strong coffee. So what am I going to talk about today? Let's see. I'm working towards, in January, I plan on being in Edinburgh. So I might possibly get to see Josh from the Arcane Forge if he just happens to be passing me by on the street. But since he is a YouTuber and a very busy man, I'm not going to impose myself on him unless unless he's quite willing to come and meet me somewhere, because I'm also going to be there with some other people, so I don't know what their itinerary is, but we're basically just going to be touristing around Edinburgh and drinking whiskey, so that's going to be fun. So I am working towards that. Also, it's going to be one hell of a shock because I'll be going from summer in New Zealand to deep winter in Scotland. Springtime birds, man. You either love them or you shoot them. Thanks for the info on Darklings. My party did assume the smaller of the race were younger versions of elders popped up in up the video as proof. Right, yeah, well that's, so it's a recent addition that 5th edition has imposed on us, but in actual fact that's never been the canonical law of Darklings. They've always been a separate species within a species. A subspecies, if you will. If a pocket character became a vampire and a pound-in character or trapped in a dungeon together and the only way they could get out was to work together when they work together, when they work together? Danny, you might need to type that out instead of using text to talk or talk to text or something like that you may possibly be using, because I can't understand what you're asking me. Would you allow a gnome on dogback to use a spear as a lance? I ask because I'm working with that idea. Yes, absolutely. Yep, that is entirely what gnome and halfling paladins can do. Would trap the soul be useful for bribing a demon? It would let you willingly offer a soul, but does the soul have to be willing? Not necessarily. Particularly if it's the soul of a somebody who's evil and easily manipulated. A 7-day whiskey fast. I do plan on trying some Scottish delicacies while I'm over there. They do exist. Shoot them with both +1 crossbow. I had an interesting question from somebody who seems to be brand new to DMing, and they asked what combination of CRs and creatures is good to begin play. And of course, as with any beginner DM question, you have to ask the question of, are you starting at first level? Are these characters, what are these characters, etc. So maybe I should do a video for people who are just starting out on what's a good combination of starting encounters that are tried and true tropes for a reason. Like the old bug hunt under the tavern, for instance, is a good one. Also, you said that when someone becomes a vampire, the soul goes onto their destiny plane. Does that mean a vampire who somehow got into a good realm could talk to their former self, say hello? Possibly, yeah. I'm not entirely sure. It may be that their soul gets trapped on the fugue plane until such a problem has been resolved. They may even become, like if they're a very good person who is killed and their body rises as a vampire, possessed of the vampire intelligence. Drunk AJ and Jordan live stream from a Scottish pub. That would be fantastic. Can you imagine me and Jordan drunk along with Josh? Oh my god, that'd be great. Josh from Arcane Forge. Jordan, if Jordan is capable of going to Scotland, I'm sure he is. That'd be fantastic. I'm quite looking forward to one day getting to go to Gen Con and hang out at the pub with the other YouTubers and meet them for the first time, finally. Size them up. Lumber through the door and go, hi everybody, and they're like, Jesus Christ, you are huge. I don't really like the loamy stuff. I like the really dry, non-peaty whiskey. You know, proper Highland Scottish stuff, not the Irish mossy stuff. I have a particular type of taste for whiskey after having tried a few. Like, I wouldn't go near a Lafroig, for instance. There's nothing wrong with Lafroig, it's just not my taste, mind. Did you remember the name of that feathered serpent god that got killed by his brother? In which video you had that is? Yeah, that's the introduction to the Nine Hells in the Asmodeus video that I talked about that. Dovahkiin, you should probably carry on studying while you're watching this at the same time. It doesn't require a lot of mental effort to tune into these live streams. Thank you very much, by the way, Jordan, for the super chat. Sorry, Jared, not Jordan. Goes well. Thanks, Mel Kirosh. Glad to see you sitting right in after the move. Now back to lurking. Yep, I'm pretty much fully settled in now. I was even taking some D&D miniatures and stuff out to storage in the garage, unfortunately, because I'm not going to be able to use them out here in the countryside. There's nobody around here playing D&D. So it's online D&D, and I don't really need a lot of miniatures for that. Monkey Shoulder, an 1816 dark cast. Both Tennessee delights. Tennessee, okay. Going to Scotland. Yeah. So that's an interesting point, actually. Trading different alcohols. Like, alcohol always seems to come up in games where dwarves are involved, for instance. And I really love the cave fisher idea that their blood is a form of alcohol that's highly prized by dwarves. In fact, that was one of the main things from one of the player characters of a friend of mine, was that his dwarf was motivated to get back to civilization to find some cave fisher alcohol. But it was very rare where he was from. You have to wololo some of the locals and get them to play D&D with them. Wololo, wololo. It's like, huh, got a strange fascination with that symbol on your shirt there. There may possibly be some people in this area who play D&D. Who knows? You never know. You can never have. That's true. I can never have enough minis. I've got a box, literal box, full of unpainted Reaper miniatures that I can work my way through. What's the human maturity age in Forgotten Realms? So most people are working age by at least the age of 12 or 13. They'll be certainly out of the house by the age of 14 or 15, and they'll be getting married around the age of 16 to 18. And by 20, they'd be a journeyman with children, I would say. That's fairly standard for humans. What kind of groves do I have? Just fermented, name it Cavefisher. Well, Talisker is a good Scottish one if you want to bring one back home. I will be bringing many back home through duty free. Just have to find a local RP cult. Well, honestly, I'm quite happy with role-playing online. I do like the company of people, but my gaming group from back in Hamilton, we still meet every Tuesday. I just phone in online via Discord, but they actually still meet physically in a room, sitting around a table and having snacks together. The Dark Eight is also a political power in Bartor, in and of their own right. So they're military commanders, and as you know, military commanders can often lead military coups and things. So as pit fiends, they can possibly rise up to like proper lords of hell if they get enough oomph behind them. Ken Otaku, yes, use the, there is the, in 5th edition, where's my monster manual? Where's my Mountain Dew? Let's play this handbook. I'm going to turn to this one because I've had quite a lot of questions about gods and stuff on these live streams. So I just wanted to read off your go-to creature in the monster manual here, if I can find it. There he is, page 130. Turn to page 130, everyone, if you happen to have your monster manual here. And page 130 is the Empyrean. So these are essentially demigods, or the children of gods. So they could also represent mortal heroes who have risen to the point of godhood, but they're not fully gods yet. Or it could be a realm where there are gods, but there's no overgod, which gives them trans-dimensional powers, like Ao does for the gods of Faerun. So Empyreans are the celestial children of the gods of the upper planes. They are universally beautiful, statuesque, and self-assured. You can easily change the fluff text, the descriptive text, however you feel free to suit. So you can make infernal versions of the Empyreans. So they manifest their emotions as power. And it may be that they're essentially waiting for humans to latch onto the idea of them, and then they get feedback from the will of and worship of mortals, and they become gods with portfolios and stuff, and are molded by the worshippers to become gods. So it's it's a process. But Greek mythology is full of the sons of gods and things. I mean, Percy Jackson, Lightning Thief, and stuff like that. That's exactly the sort of stories that you can have. And of course Hercules or Heracles, those sort of stories, Perseus and all those guys. So yeah, they've got a bunch of powers that they use. They've got a maul and lightning bolts, magic weapons. Anything they pick up is basically a magic weapon. They've got magic resistance. They've got legendary resistance. They can cast greater restoration, pass without trace, water breathing, and water walk at will. And once a day they can use commune, dispel evil and good, earthquake, firestorm, and plane shift for themselves only. But all of these are just base abilities that somebody of that power level would have, and they're challenge rating 23. So that gives you some idea of they're just entry level gods, and they've got a challenge rating of 23, so that they're not even full gods yet. But they are able to be killed. So there you go. No, I haven't done a video on elves or dwarves or humans yet, or halflings. I have done a video on tieflings, on Goliath, on Warforged, on Tabaxi. So yeah, I'm getting there. Don't be so sure, Flying Axe-Blade. Slay goblins and drink their tears. Yeah, the Demon series said is going to take me a while. So I'll do other things while I'm still continuing on with the Demon series. The Demon series is basically just in perpetual. So I've still got the list of all the videos for the Demon series here. So as you can see, it's an extensive list. That's going to take me over a year to get all those done, at least. So if anybody ever worries about me running out of content, not even close. And of course, they're still making, everybody's making monsters all the time. Yeah, technology is definitely bringing us together. Yeah. So Skype, you've got Fantasy Grounds, you've got Discord. There's various, like, you can even play over Twitch, or I'm sure YouTube at some point, if they ever get their shit together, might come up with some sort of conference calling and live streaming. Can I do a video on the Verbeeg? Yeah, actually, I'm reading the where is it? I'm reading this right now, and yeah, there's a big fight with Verbeeg right at the start of it. So yes, absolutely, I'll be doing a video on the Verbeeg, the least of the giants, but still giants, still true giants. It's a really good book, actually. Oh, I think D&D remembers that Verbeeg era thing. I mean, they're definitely canon for the far north of Faerun. Yeah, many clans of Verbeeg infest the spine of the world, and they're quite often they wander around. They're not always seen as monstrous wherever they go. And Verbeeg are just as capable of humans and of having a personality and intelligence and things like that. It's just that Verbeeg are very territorial and combative, and they fight against each other. So they've never become organised. Good evening, Rabbit in Glasses. Titania's. Yeah. Well, all of the R.A. Salvatore books are... R.A. Salvatore's The Legend of Drizzt series is all collected works. So they're presented in chronological order. So it's not the published order, because he sort of jumped around in Drizzt's life in the publishing of the books. So if you buy these books one after the other, you essentially go through Drizzt's life. I'm sure you've noticed the recent Colville video, Matthew Colville, and it's got me curious of how many people think fudging dice is cheating, because it is. Yeah, it's like I will set the DCs of things, and I actually don't do a hell of a lot of dice rolling unless it's like the monsters rolling to attack and beat their armor class and things like that. And generally speaking, if you're not interested in doing a certain thing, then just don't roll the dice at all. You don't need to as a dungeon master, particularly if that's your attitude, if you're trying to set a certain tone. So you can roll dice and just say what your results are, and be constantly rolling dice anyway to keep your players on their toes. And I make a lot of use of random roll tables and things like that, because I like the idea of I don't know what's going to happen next either. But as for fudging dice rolls, so you roll something and then you modify the result. Why did you roll the dice in the first place? You know, if you're not happy with what could be the outcome, then you shouldn't be rolling dice in the first place. Or you've made some sort of mistake that you need to correct. Wonder what it's like to play D&D with R.A. Salvatore. It'd be great. He's been role-playing for years. In the introduction to his collection of stories, I got it on Audible, and he was talking about his role players that helped him out in his early years writing novels. His role-playing friends. Can a mortal soul inhabit the body of a construct? Yes, it can. The bell failed you. Oh no. Have you tried unsubscribing and subscribing again, Deathless? Yeah, it's never really entirely clear what the souls are of the Warforged. I think one of the interesting things in the canon lore of souls in Dungeons and Dragons in general, particularly Planescape, is souls come from a place, and it is absolutely forbidden for any divine or infernal power to interfere with the distribution or issuing of those souls. However, where those souls end up and what form they take when they're alive is outside of the purview of gods as well. So it is actually possible that the Warforged are summoned souls that go into those Warforged bodies. The implication for that is kind of unpleasant when you think about it, that those souls were destined for something else and they got diverted and put into a Warforged instead, and that something else would equate to dead babies. So yeah, there's a grim dark aspect to Eberron that is ever present, I think. Magic is unnatural. Magic is disruptive. I don't mind if you unsubscribe from me, it's okay. What happens with YouTube is the YouTube algorithm, if you've been a subscriber for a long time, it just automatically assumes that you're not still watching the channel because of the trend so often So often, it's so common for people to subscribe to a channel and then stop watching the videos after a little while. They just get sort of sick of the content. So they stop watching. And then YouTube says, well, okay, if that's the case, then we will stop recommending those videos after a set amount of time based on our statistics. So if you fall outside of their standard of deviation, then you're screwed. You don't get notifications and you don't get recommended videos from me popping up there because you've been subscribed to me too long. So when I say unsubscribe from the channel and subscribe again, I'm saying do that because you'll beat the YouTube algorithm and you'll get subscriptions, hopefully, that you're supposed to be getting. And it will make your recommended videos board make sense again. I mean, it's learning. It's learning. If enough people do that, then it will become the norm for YouTube to go, oh, okay, I'm getting it wrong. It's just a robot. It's not perfect. It's not malicious. Hello, Mr. Pickett. You have given me some links to websites for D&D in the Netherlands, but they don't work anymore. Do you have any other? I'd really like to play this magical game. Mix. I would say use Google, man. That's how I got those ones. And find some Dutch people on Facebook or somewhere else. There must be some groups on Facebook where they have people from the Netherlands who are playing D&D or talking about D&D. So yeah, definitely do that. Just keyword searching on YouTube for groups, and searching in Google for names of towns and things like that. Be fairly specific and narrow it down, and you'll be able to find people. I'm sure of it. You know Holland better than I ever will, so you've got a better chance of finding them than I do. Do people walk into auditorium, one of them says, why are we here? And the other one gets on stage and pulls out a skull and says, to be or not to be? Is there a joke? The demons of D&D, Warhammer and Warcraft are all different to be described as one. Yes, and also the demons and devils of Magic the Gathering are kind of switched around as well, to make it even more confusing. We need more stereotypes in D&D. Possibly. Where do you find a wizard in a tavern? Sitting in the dark corner, obviously. Doesn't really make sense when you... Well, maybe it does. I mean, if they're sitting under a bright light reading a magic volume all the time, then they probably quite value a nice dark corner to sit in, bereft of candlelight, so they can rest their eyes. You subscribe to over 500 people, can't tell you what half of them are. Yeah, sometimes I subscribe to people and I kind of feel honor bound to keep subscribed to them, even though I don't really watch their stuff. Hey Trey! Ex-poison! Has that joke gone on long enough? Do we really... I think we possibly need to actually tell people what axe poison is, Trey. The time may have come to release the recipe. Or maybe not. Yeah, nah. Hey Dracos. That's okay. I started early, kind of. Just to remind everyone, the Dragon says that this is a monetized channel and super chats are enabled, and we will live stream for food. The more you super chat me, the longer these chats will go. How's that? Maybe I'll add a for every $1 I'll add a minute to the live stream. How does that sound? Is that crazy? Is that open to abuse? Will I be here all day? Possibly never stop live streaming? That's a crazy idea. $1 per minute. I am now a cam whore. Who knows? 2 minutes! Thanks, Bryce. I'm noting that down. Tom Hawk Toxin. The Eldrazi and the Eldrazi Titans. Yep, definitely. I want to do the Thran. I want to do Phyrexia. Desperately want to do Phyrexia. And yeah, various other aspects of Magic the Gathering. I'm really looking forward to... actually, has it come out yet? Is it released yet, or is that November? I think it's November that the D&D Beyond. I know somebody asked me this before. When the Ravnica book comes out, I think it was 7th of November or something like that. Where is it? In the marketplace. Look at that legendary bundle and it's just like, ooh. November 9th, 2018 is when they are releasing it. And I'm very curious what they're going to do with the lore. I can see on the cover there's a red dragon, but it's not... Is it a red dragon? It doesn't look exactly like a red dragon, so it might not actually be the exact same universe. We don't know. They have existed for millennia, and each one has its own identity and civic function, its own diverse collection of races and creatures, its own distinct subculture. So in the D&D Beyond, there are the races, the official races, which now include Changeling, the Gith, the Genasi, the Kalashtar, Kinku, Loxodons, Minotaurs, Orcs, full-blooded Orcs, the Simic Hybrid, the Shifter, Tabaxi, Tritons, Turtles, the Vedalken, the Viashino, the Warforged, and the Yuan-Ti Pureblood. So those who are which are listed as Unearthed Arcana, these are creatures that are from Ravnica. So the Loxodon, Simic Hybrid, etc. Let's have a look at the Simic Hybrid details. It says it's unofficial material, and yet it's listed under official races. So it's presented here for playtesting. It's not permitted in Adventure League series yet. The Simic combine uses magic to fuse different forms of life together. In recent years, they have extended this research to humanoid subjects, magically transferring the traits of various animals into humans, elves, and Vedalken. The goal of the so-called Guardian Project is to build a Simic army of superior soldiers, perfectly adapted to a variety of combat situations. So super soldiers, essentially. These hyper-evolved specimens are called Simic hybrids, though they sometimes call themselves Guardians. So the extensive adaptation means that they have a calculating intellect the same as Vedalken, making them superior tacticians, strategists, and spellcasters, but cold-blooded killers. Hybrids' biological enhancements can change their appearance drastically. All hybrids possess some physical characteristics of animals, mostly aquatic or reptilian creatures. So they could include crab claws, squid tentacles, wings that look like rays, fins, or translucent or camouflaged skin, shark-like maws filled with savage teeth. So yeah, that's going to be fun at the gaming table. Essentially, you're role-playing with a mutant. So why not? Why not, eh? Why not? What is your favourite D&D material? I would have to say that Planescape and the Forgotten Realms are my favourite material. I consider them to be synonymous with each other. And also, Forgotten Realms is tied in with Realm Space, which is Spelljammer. So in my head, in my canon, Spelljammer, Planescape, and Forgotten Realms is mainly where everything happens in my games. Other locations, other world settings for the D&D game are other locations that people can visit. In fact, in the last session of Eberron that we played, they encountered a planar portal to one of the moons of Eberron, and connected to that planar portal was a gateway directly to the Astral Sea and a Githyanki staging ground where an astral travelling ship, a spelljamming ship, was moored. They didn't go on board. They wanted to get back to Eberron as fast as they could, and they were very confused about how they got there in the first place. But you know, that's what happens when you march your entire party into a suitcase with a stairwell in it. Strange things happen. They've got centaurs under the list of playable races. Who's my favourite D&D deity? Let's see. Today, I'm going to go with Azuth. Or possibly Claggenden. Or Moradin. Maybe Moradin. Since we're talking about whiskey earlier on. Look at the legendary bundle. Yeah. That would be a happy birthday from Wizards of the Coast if they bought me the legendary bundle, considering I talk about their bloody products 100% of the time. Hey, Wizards of the Coast, would you perhaps want to sponsor me with all your official content? Doesn't matter. I own all the books anyway. Are you planning on decorating the studio background in the D&D theme? Yes, actually I've got some stuff that I'm going to print out and put on the walls. This is actually a window, so I can't really put anything over top of that. I mean, the usual trope is for Dungeons and Dragons channels to have like bookshelves and stuff with all their stuff behind it. But my books are usually in use, so they are normally flat and stacked on top of each other with copious amounts of notes and maps and things like that in there as well, including my fabulous arcane note, which is in use, filled with notes on my current campaign. So yeah, I'll be right back, everybody. I've just got to knock at my door.
Hello. This was just up on the windowsill in the laundry. I guess it arrived when the gas, new gas things.
Okay.
I'm going uptown for a doctor's appointment. Anything you want?
Red.
Red? What sort?
Couple of globes of actually live streaming one.
Oh, I have sorry.
Freya's multigrain.
Rose multigrain. Anything else?
That's good.
Okay, sorry.
That's right. Sorry, everyone. That was my mum. She's just going uptown. She asked me if I wanted anything. I said yes, I need a couple of loaves of bread. And she was delivering some stuff from the gas company, which just delivered a gas bottle, which I didn't really need, but that's okay. Keep it down in there, you hoodlum. What are you doing there on your computer, Ranger? Who are you talking to? I should have brought my mum in here so you can meet her. Gauntlet. Oh, Gauntlet, man. That was great. Hey, Wizards of the Coast, would you like to sponsor me with D&D content? That's all I ask. If you're going to do Eldrazi, Phyrexia and all that, why not make a video on the ultimate monster to ever grace Magic the Gathering slivers? Saprolings. I've actually been playing a lot of Hearthstone lately. and I have been playing a demon deck, and the demon cards are really great because it's a brutal style of play where you don't, like, everything is up for sacrifice, including your life point total. So it's a real black-red type situation if you're playing Magic the Gathering. Things are really well at the Orchard, thanks William. Red Wizard for life. Bread, that's right, bread. For making sandwiches. It's probably not noticeable at all, but I'm actually I don't like saying I'm on a diet because it's like I'm not starving myself. Technically I'm cutting down on my calories a crap load to less than what my physical activity demands, so I am losing weight as a consequence, but I'm doing that for health reasons more than anything. I just wasn't comfortable at the weight that I was, because I sit and read and write scripts and record stuff for long periods of time. So the orchard is mostly up here on the hill. Around the house is navel oranges. So they're like Californian navel oranges, same sort of thing you grow there. And they completely surround where I am right now. So I'm surrounded by orange trees that are just loaded with oranges. Over the other side of the house we've got other types of citrus. We've got apple trees, we've got a massive avocado tree, we've got a fig tree, lots and lots of berries and things like that pop up. We've got various vegetable gardens all over the place. I've got quite a large sort of half field, which is like, what is it? I don't know, quarter of a hectare or something of land there that I can put other gardens. There's a heap of compost and stuff I've got to rake over there, so that's going to burn some calories for sure. And down the slope we've got, I don't know if you're familiar with this, it's called the Phaedo Trees. The Phaedo trees are also known as pineapple guavas. They're a very, very popular fruit in New Zealand. They're a small green fruit. Look it up. I'll type in the chat what the name of the fruit is and see if you can find. Got an interesting backstory behind that fruit. Actually, it's from South America, and it's kind of known as the fruit of reason. Philosophers and things who are involved. There's an interesting backstory behind that fruit, but it is a delicious fruit, and that forms a hedge and a windbreak, and also the border of Henley Terrace, as we call it, where we have essentially we've got free-range chickens, ducks, and guinea fowl just running around the place all the time. They are completely free-range, so they live on the property with us, and they turn over all of the soil and stuff like that, and make sure that the trees are very healthy, keep the pests down and stuff. Unfortunately, there's quite an attrition rate due to a couple of neighbourhood cats there's also a pair of hawks that nest somewhere around here within a few miles, and they quite often do a flyby to see if there's any chicks or ducklings around to eat. So one of the benefits of having free-range chickens and ducks and things is that they're just wandering around, they're perfectly happy and healthy, and they do a lot of good for the land. One of the downsides is that they are also open to being predated upon naturally by the predators that are in the area. And say if the ducks have 13 ducklings, three or four of them will survive. That's it, and they'll die real quick. And the guinea fowl, as a result, are extremely paranoid and almost wild in their behaviour. So they always travel in groups. Not really when you think about it. With Celtic myth, and there's a salmon of wisdom. I eat a lot of fish, and it's great for my brain. It's fantastic for your developing brain and for your memory. I'm living proof of this. Yeah, so and also down past the Phaedo Trees we have the kiwi fruit orchard. So the kiwi fruit is a series of like mile long, I don't know if it's a mile, half mile maybe, long rows of kiwi fruit vines. And that's all pretty much managed by the local pack house. Yeah. I mean, I don't begrudge the hawks and stuff. I certainly, there's nothing really that I can do to stop the cats from doing what they do. That's what cats do, they hunt birds. What I do wish is that the neighbours would put bells on their cats. I think that's reasonable because essentially the chickens are our livestock and their cats are thieving. I mean, if it was a dog and sheep, it'd be a different story. And I don't necessarily want to have to trap their cats and take them back to them and say, they're on our property killing our birds. If they do that again, I'll keep your cat. I quite miss having a cat, and cats don't care. I'll give it enough food. It'll call me dad. Hey, Greenside. We do make preserves, yep. My mum makes a mean jam. Orange, you glad you moved out to the orchard? Yes. 40 people looked it up and forgot to like the video. Yeah, so the orchard's really nice. I would like to take you guys on a little, I'll do a little photo montage video at some point just for anybody who's interested, and show you how nice the place is. I don't know if I can actually post a video on the stream at all. I'll have to make a video about it. What if a mind flayer ate the elder brain? I don't think they can actually eat each other's brains. The elder brains can eat the baby mind flayers, the slugs, but once seromorphosis has been completed, I've never heard of elder brains eating mind flayers. So there may be some property that actually turns them inedible. Also, the mind flayer brain tissue is technically dead. And also half of it exists in another dimensional pocket. So they're actually larger on the inside than they are on the outside. Phaedo, yeah, Phaedos are shipped to the US. We don't, generally speaking in New Zealand, we don't raise them as a cash crop. There's just not enough demand for them overseas. Or that demand is met by countries which are closer to their location. Although it's actually very fuel efficient for New Zealand to export stuff because we do it all by sea, by necessity, and sea shipping is actually really efficient, particularly because the Pacific Current takes everything along the coast of Australia, Papua New Guinea, the side of Japan and South Sea and China, and on around to South America, Argentina, Chile, and then swings back around to us again. So there's a big sort of Pacific ring around the Pacific Ocean that forms its own economic power group, so to speak, on this side of the world. But our population is really low. Like the population of the Southern Hemisphere is only about 14% of the world population. It's tiny. No demand until your channel. I have to say that, yeah, if you've never tried a feed job before, you'll either love it like crack or you'll have no interest in it. It is literally like a pineapple crossed with a guava, if that makes any sense to you. Where in the Discord is it appropriate for me to post a photo of my brother's ingrown toenail? Probably meme chat, because you got to make that stuff funny. But I mean, general chat, anywhere really. I don't mind. Yeah, well, I'll quite happily, guys, take you guys on a walk about the orchard, for sure. I have a phone. on with a camera on it, so it's possible. How's the time doing? Oh yeah, we're about halfway through. Plus the 2 minutes that Bryce bought. So yeah, there's a lot of other stuff here. One of the interesting things I like about Forgotten Realms is studying what particular areas of the Forgotten Realms grow as cash crops and tradable things, and what their mines produce and things. Like if you look at a map of our world, for instance, copper is not mined in every location in the planet. It's concentrated mainly in America. So America produces a lot of copper in the process of mining other stuff. And one of the incidents that was quite interesting was the conflict with North Korea, and that North Korea has a lot of materials for producing steel, but it doesn't have the materials for producing high quality steel. And to do that, you need molybdenum, and molybdenum is a mineral metal which is quite often mined in the same place that copper is mined. So as a result of the American mines mining a lot of copper, they stockpile a lot of molybdenum and then sell it on to the rest of the world. And I'm not entirely sure if there's some rules and regulations about having to sell rare minerals and earth and elements and things to people, to countries that don't have access to them, if it's required. I mean, you can sell them for whatever price. And what I think happened was America just basically turned off the tap of molybdenum, which made the quality of Chinese and North Korean in particular steel plummet. New Zealand certainly noticed this because China was trying to offload a lot of poor quality steel on us. They were essentially subsidizing the local steel producers out of the market, and it resulted in a lot of shoddy construction, thanks to their steel being really low quality. And it also resulted in North Korea getting very aggressive with the States. It really wasn't about nuclear weapons and things like that. It was about America manipulating the manufacturing capability of an entire country, thanks to just basically turning off the supply of molybdenum. But don't believe me. Go and research it yourself. I encourage you. Certainly it makes for an interesting read, and you'll learn something about about commodity trading and politics and economic warfare. So it was definitely kind of, I mean, if it was a deliberate act, it was an aggression against North Korea's capability, because mainly those high quality steels would be used in the production of missile casings, weapons manufacture and things like that, which North Korea of course earns a lot of money from. And that's a direct competition to America producing weapons. So how that ties back into what I was talking about, Forgotten Realms, one of the things I love researching in Forgotten Realms is economic warfare, and the way that trade routes are force people to travel into particular areas or through particular areas that they would normally not travel through because they're too dangerous. So the idea of merchant caravans and your player characters training and things like that. This also reminds me of the Traveller science fiction role-playing game, and how when you're creating your character, everybody who's played this will know what I'm about to talk about. When you create your character, you actually create a career for your character that goes by year, and you've got a chance of, say, your character trained for a certain number of years as a merchant navy crew on a ship or something like that, or you were a caravan guard for a number of years. So this would be tied into your background of your character in Dungeons and Dragons. I've simplified it a lot, but it's the same sort of thing. And there was also a chance in your military career that you would see combat action and you could get injured or even killed. So in the process of creating your character could die. So that was one of the things that was very famous about Traveller, and is still famous if you want to play, Iron Man mode. And I think that's a perfectly reasonable thing if you want to create very rich and detailed background stories for your character, especially if your players are really against the idea of starting the game as level 1 characters and want to start off at level 3 or something like that, because you kind of have to come up with some sort of story as to why your characters have possessions and things like that at level 3. And it's relatively easy to come up with a series of videos and things like that where, a series of random roll tables and things that talk about what happened in level 1, 2 and 3 of their characters' role-playing career, their adventuring career, because they were adventurers for 3 levels before you took them over as playable characters. So trade in the realms, yeah. So that might have to do with trade, travel, warfare, you know, military service, police service, something like that, which you can certainly come up with some good ideas. AJ, do you have any good D&D YouTubers to recommend? Definitely the people that are on my recommended videos list, the people who do lore. So you've got Jordan, the history of Faerun, or history of Toril. Josh at the Arcane Forge, his Monster Monday videos are really good, and he does fantastic monster illustrations. Jordan and the PH is silent. Shadowversity, Nate from WSDU20, Devon, I can't remember his name. Duvet Brion Jackson. Yeah, lots. Oops, I shouldn't have clicked that. Yikes. Am I still with you? I shouldn't have clicked that. Yeah, Jordan is awesome. Matthew Colville, of course. Let me just pop that chat out again. DM Scotty, and also DMG Info. They're mainly crafters though, and of course the crafting circle, so that includes Black Magic Craft and Wylock. Yeah. Dungeon Dad also, yeah, actually good point. Dungeon Dad is really good. Dungeon Cast. I'd like actually for I'd like to see Matthew Mercer actually make some lore videos and things. Like sit down and actually talk about his planning process and his world building process and things like that, instead of just all, you know, streaming D&D all the time or just having interviews. And I'm kind of like, I don't like it's. You can always opt to just not watch the videos, but I wish D&D Beyond would not focus so much on Critical Role, because it's really like this American celebrity culture. It's a little bit for a non-American. It's like, come on, guys, they're just role players, you know. They're just role players. But they're also professional actors, so I can certainly see that as they put a lot of work into that game and entertaining people, although they do get money for it, but they also have professional careers. So they're doing it as they're kind of forging a brand new career, and I don't think they entirely know where it's going to go. Really, it's forging new ground as a kind of improv actor. So they're a freelance, self-employed improv actor, when you think about it, an entertainer. It's like being a member of cast of like a science fiction TV show and then going along to a convention and fans coming up and taking photographs and stuff with you. But in this particular case, they don't have a TV show or anything. They're just streaming their games and things, and they're getting the same sort of celebrity status as Captain Kirk, Spock, McCoy, Janeway. It's kind of crazy when you think about it. So, I mean, I respect that they're forging a brand new entertainment medium. I also respect that a broadcast D&D game is a different experience and has a different standard of play and a different format than a home D&D game that you're playing with your friends. So the medium changes the way that you play the game. And I've had a lot of people saying that Critical Role is ruining the game because people are getting introduced to this weird way of playing D&D. That's as ridiculous as saying that watching a wildlife documentary makes you incapable of going camping. Watching the wildlife documentary introduces you to nature and the things that you can see in nature and gets you interested in going camping in the first place. When you go camping, you don't expect to be close up to the mating habits of a dung beetle, for God's sakes. That's the sort of thing that you see in nature documentaries and things. And nature documentaries are constructed that way. It's not like going camping. So it's a completely different experience, but the same general medium. So it's a gateway into actual roleplay. So watching Critical Role and becoming a fan of Critical Role doesn't ruin you for tabletop gaming. It just primes you for it. So you want those sort of cool experiences and things, you want to get engaged. And as soon as they sit down and their imagination hits the table, they're in their own shared dream experience, and it's fantastic. It's much better than watching a game. You're participating in it and becoming a gamer. So I have no problem with Critical Role, and I think the arguments against Critical Role and the way that they play the game is ridiculous. It's baseless. It's old. It's fogeyism. It's grognardery. Yeah, D&D was already on the way to becoming more and more mainstream. If it wasn't Critical Role, it probably would have been somebody else. They've got hundreds of thousands of people watching their thing, but the potential market for D&D is in the billions. So my interest is expanding the Dungeons and Dragons game into different countries, non-English speaking countries. We need to support those people who are playing in non-English speaking countries. It's bigger than America. So Wizard of the Coast is doing well. It's doing okay. But expanding into India and China and big markets like that, it's going to change the game again in different ways. They're probably, I don't know if they've even got any plans to expand into India, but it would be a really good idea, because when you think about the cultures of India and the Middle East and things, where they gather together far more often in groups and sit around sharing meals and things like that, it's as much like shared gaming experiences are just as much a part of their culture as they ever were for Europeans. So it is absolutely primed and ready to go. And I think expanding into the Indian market, whoever manages to do that and spearhead D&D into India and into China is just, yeah, it's an amazing opportunity and responsibility. So I'm certainly planning on doing my part and translating my my D&D videos into Hindi to start off with, just to see what it's like and whether I can make a channel that will actually work for a Hindi audience. It's going to cost me money. It's going to cost me extra time, but I think it's worth it. Unfortunately, I won't be able to engage the same way because I don't speak Hindi, so I won't be able to answer any comments in Hindi and stuff, unfortunately. So I won't be able to engage the same way as I can with my audience, which is unfortunate because I'd really love to, because there'll be so many questions. Did he? He grew up in India in early childhood. For sure. You haven't been camping since Occupy Wall Street. That was a while ago. So yeah, I mean, I'm interested in the mainstream market, but I'm also interested in D&D literally taking over the world, becoming a worldwide game, where it actually drives companies to produce live language translating software for streaming services because so many people from different countries gather together to play role-playing games. Could you imagine? Can you imagine actually driving the technological growth of communication mediums across the world thanks to role-playing games? Have I ever thought about turning my campaigns into screenplays and tried writing the script? It would be a terrible script, I'm telling you. Completely random. They'll be like, wait, what's going on? There's an old movie called House. It's kind of like a comedy horror movie. It's got the guy from The Greatest American Hero in it. And the house has got all these interdimensional portals to different times in his life. And it's haunted by his dead grandmother. And there's like this monster that comes out of a closet at a certain time of the night. And he convinces his neighbours to sit there waiting for this thing, saying there's a raccoon that comes down. So my D&D games are kind of like that house, where it can go crazy at any minute. And yeah, you don't have to even be anywhere for things to get crazy. Places will just, like, there'll be, yeah, it's like a Swiss cheese of interdimensional connections in my D&D games. Cujo the raccoon, yeah. A raccoon, Roger? A raccoon? Yeah, I wanted you to hit him, shoot him right between the eyes with this harpoon gun. A harpoon? Yeah, it's a fantastic movie. Like the flying, the possessed flying garden implements are terrifying. Can you imagine being chased around by sharp, like, garden instruments? Are you optimistic or pessimistic or indifferent about the world's direction in the next century? I am highly optimistic. I am massively optimistic. It's going to be very interesting. There is Christianity in D&D. You just got to read the early Dragon magazines to understand how. And the Malharandi pantheon is Egyptian and Babylonian. So yeah, there is crossovers with real world pantheons. So if it is canological that the ancient empire of Amaska brought over humans as workers and soldiers and slaves from ancient Babylonia, or ancient Mesopotamia and ancient Egypt, and they petitioned and brought over their gods as well, then it's entirely possible that a present day in the current calendar of the Forgotten Realms could create a portal and go to the contemporary Earth at that time, which is about 17th century Earth, and grab some humans there, and then you would have humans who are possibly Christians in Forgotten Realms. It's canological. It's legit. You can do that because it's been done before in the stories. Dwarves declare holy war. Yeah, it's entirely possible. Particularly in Eberron. So in Eberron there are no gods present. So gods are a matter of faith again. So in the Forgotten Realms, people know that gods exist. So it's not so much a matter of faith, and I suppose atheism is an entirely different kettle of fish there, because there's it's getting you take me down the rabbit hole now. The factions of Planescape, which is something that I want to start talking about like the harmonium and the sensates and stuff. There is a faction of philosophy in the planar network of people and belief and philosophy about the way the universe should be, or the multiverse should be. And one of them says that they believe that gods are basically just mortal creatures that are super powerful, and that they are no more worthy of worship and supplication than any other creature. That everyone has a right to be a sovereign being, with the potential to be gods themselves. So this doesn't sit very well with the D&D gods either. So yeah, they have an interesting time, this faction. But of course, existing inside the city of Sigil, which has barred all divine activity and entry, it kind of lends credence to their philosophy. Well, yeah, the genies, of course, that's Middle Eastern. I wouldn't say so with the monks. They're particularly in Karatua, they've got the Eastern philosophies of the Celestial Court. So that's kind of divine. AJ, I forgot. Where is it in the astral sea where the bodies of dead gods go? Everywhere. Everywhere. You can find them all over the place. There's got to be some sort of central area that they can be found. How does Sigil ban all divinity? Don't know. Something to do with the Lady of Pain, as far as we know. It's never really explained. It is, in its location, exactly in the center of the most neutral plane of all interconnecting different planes. So the Outlands, otherwise known as just the land, is a central hub that's said to be the center of the multiverse that everything revolves around, essentially. And the hub right in the middle of it is the central spire of rock that the Rilmani, the most neutral race in the multiverse, live inside. And around, and floating above that is the city of Sigil. So it's completely unique. Could a wish spell turn you into God? No. Absolutely not. Yeah, the Lady of Pain intrigues everyone until they meet her, and then they quickly lose interest because, you know, their body is severely lacerated and they're sitting in a dungeon maze they can never get out of. Oh, you're most welcome. Yeah, I mean, you could cast a wish spell and petition AO for divine status, but it would be extremely unlikely unless you were right on the cusp. Praise Demogorgon! What if I wish that the wish spell could do that? Well, yeah, wishes don't exist in a vacuum. The power is provided. Would it be possible to harvest and preserve Beholder Eyes and use them almost like spells? I would say so. One of the creatures that I really like is the Splugorth from the Palladium Rifts series. The Rifts setting, Dungeons and Dragons, from the Palladium role-playing game. And the Splugorth have this planet Ilor that they harvest these magical eyes from and use them as techno magical power sources and things like that. So they're a source of potential psychic energy, which is what powers the spells. So I see nothing wrong with that sort of techno wizardry, particularly in locations like Ebron and things like that. So you may actually have people that are harvesting creatures that don't conform to the normal laws of like things that, a good case in point is creatures that don't need to eat. So dragons, as we know, can exist for centuries without hunting and eating. So they subsist on elemental energy. It's part of their metabolism. That's what makes them draconic and not reptiles or saurians. So elementals and draconic beings and things with a sorcerous origin or things with an otherworldly, like demonic power source and things like that, they can be harvested and used as a power source by those who have very carefully studied and learned how to preserve and channel that specific type of energy. So it's an entirely different form of technology that doesn't make any sense to us because it doesn't follow the normal laws of entropy. And of course, with it comes the danger of, if you have a power source which is not following the laws of entropy, where is that power coming from? And one of the things that I find interesting in Spelljammer about the Forgotten Realms realm space is that it's slowly heating up. It's one of the warmest wild spaces that you can find, so it's almost tropical. Hey Gadzooks, thank you. Hey AJ, see what happens when you stream earlier? Generous Europeans are still awake for super chat goodness. Also, that's an extra 5 minutes of live streaming. Since we just hit the hour, we're now up to 7 minutes past. Actually, we're a bit over the hour now. This is a particularly long live stream, but I was just getting into a good spiel there. So yeah, the danger of these extra dimensional power sources, so if they're drawing on elemental energy, or if they're drawing on abyssal energy, or they're drawing on energy from the Nine Hells, or they're drawing on psychic power from the Far Realm, is you're weakening the planar barriers and you're disrupting the natural order of entropy and growth and birth and death and stuff. So magic is great in that it allows you to skip the middleman and just get energy from nothing. But it's really bad in that it can disrupt the natural order of things. So you can parch the land. Case in point, the world of Athos, where the gods are not around to correct the balance after magicians basically rip it apart using magic. So the gods are put in the place of these delicate laws of give and take and stuff. Have you heard of Titania of the Summer Court? Yes, I have. And we're up to, that's another 5 minutes. Thank you very much. So that's, let's do math. So that's 13 minutes. So, so when the gods are absent from the situation, so they're absent from the world of Athos, the disruption caused by magic actually damages the environment to the extent that it kills the capacity of soil to support life, so it becomes a desert. And added to the fact that the world's star is actually dying, and it's in the very late stages of its cycle, so it's expanding slowly. You have bad spell? We're shooting for 14 hours and a wiped out AJ. That'd be great. Would a dragon soul be closer to a devil or angel soul? Dragons are kind of unique in that there's by the time they finally bite the dust, if they haven't achieved any sort of great renown or anything like that, if they haven't achieved like full maturity, it's possible that they don't have a soul. It doesn't go anywhere. So they're certainly not present on a lot of the outer planes that normal mortal creatures go to. However, it's also well known that the elemental side of their nature disperses into the environment and can create some very weird magical effects that persist for a very long time. So black dragons will create zones of acid and evil, you know, that sort of thing. And there's also, you know, instances where powerful dragons have become constellations of stars and things like that. So it's, yeah, the jury's still out on that one. The hurricane just hit in Florida and it's not too bad by your standards. Yeah, absolutely. So Wisp could be used as a power source for sure. But of course, it's just a fey creature. That would be interesting actually, because wisps they're sort of in the state of maturing. So if you drained off the power of the wisp, maybe you would retard the aging process of the actual fey creature itself, so it was stuck in a form of infancy. Of course, that's not going to make any other fey creatures very happy. But I don't know if fey creatures feel the same outrage at their fellow fey creatures being used and abused in such a way. They seem to be a fairly selfish lot, trapped in a sort of narcissistic dream. Right, so yeah, Dark Sun and Athos. And also Krynn for some time was a world without divine influence, so it was probably going that way as well. It was going the way of Dark Sun, until of course evil supernatural powers took a great interest in the place. Next week, every $5 is a live stream shot of whiskey. We'll be here for 90 minutes. No. I mean, I'm supposed to be making D&D content as well. I can't be shit-faced drunk and be expected to do that. Don't make the Fae angry. Yeah, it's not a good idea. Plants magic squid. Magic squid. Magic acorn becomes a squid. Nikolai approves of squid planting. Magic squid grenade. Nikolai disapproves of squid bombing. Oh, is it? Dark Sun's the only campaign setting you've consistently run. Well, that's cool. You should make some videos on it. Have I heard of Illithids on Krynn? Well, they've got to be present. Krynn's kind of hard to get to. So is Athos, actually. Athos is really hard to get to in a planner sense. It's easier to get to in a spelljamming ship than it is to actually go there interdimensionally, portally wise. So if it is possible for spelljamming ships to go there, then it's entirely possible for Illithids to go there, because they are a spelljamming species, a spacefaring species. Praise the sun. Yeah, generally avoid the Fae. Everyone's doing great, Kidron. Thanks for asking. Any relation to the other famous Mercer? Yeah, no, I'm not going to ferment any of the fruit here on the orchard. I prefer like properly fermented like beer and rum and stuff like that. I'm not a cider person. I've never got a taste for cider or wine because they always put sulfites in it and I can't consume sulfites, so I've never got a taste for cider or wine. Yeah, it's basically a bubble dimension. It's much like Eberron is locked away in the ethereal plane, not the astral plane. And it's not in realm space. It's not in the phlogiston flow with the other plane. So it's like a sphere floating in the ethereal, which makes it inaccessible to spelljamming ships. Yeah, closest it touches are elemental and astral planes. So that's what the gods basically do when they Pazuzu. That would be a good choice for another. I'm actually overdue for another Lords of Ruin video. You prefer cider and wine? Well, hey man, you do you. For me, it's just a chemical reason, unfortunately. So be happy that you are not so negatively affected by sulfites as me. Essentially, they just make wine taste absolutely terrible to me. So all wine tastes like the same to me. It's very, very bad, and it gives me a very bad headache immediately. And cider is exactly the same. It just tastes awful, and it gives me a headache immediately because of the sulfites. I do have some stuff that neutralizes sulfites a little bit, but it doesn't improve the taste. Ravenloft is also not accessible by spelljamming ship because it's accessible through the demi-planes of the Shadowfell. So it's a parallel dimension in connection with the spheres of influence. It's tricky really. Does not conform. How would one create a plane like that? Like what? Does etherealness equal immortality in D&D, barring some monster eating you on that plane? It can do. Certainly the astral plane and the plane of limbo. So the astral plane, time is wibbly wobbly, and so is the ethereal plane. Sort of all bets are off. And also, don't forget that when you travel to and from the Feywild, quite often characters will forget any experiences that they had in the Feywild. I don't see a lot of people talking about that, but it's actually part of the lore. That happened to the player characters in my last Tuesday game. They left a interplanar space and they rolled a, I think it was a wisdom saving throw. And half of them failed and had no recollection of what they were just doing. And it was quite traumatic for one of the characters because her hobgoblin experienced the hobgoblin afterlife and actually talked with one of the ancestors briefly, saying "Ah," and got this great idea of like a quest and stuff, and then came over and forgot all about it. There's no recollection of seeing their ancestor in the afterlife. And she's like, what? No, that's not fair. She was most upset. But, you know, in a wow, there was real consequences for that saving throw. Hey, Crafting Muse, congratulations on your 5,000 subscribers. Anybody who hasn't subscribed to Crafting Muse's channel, go and do that immediately. She does good stuff. And she's a cool person. Red caps. Yeah, so, yeah, the Githyanki and Githzerai visit all over the place. And dwarves get around, and elves as well. And beholders travel around the phlogiston and go to the different spheres of existence. Honestly, you can come up with anything you like and put it in a sphere, a cosmic sphere. And also come up with your own reasons why those spheres exist in the first place. Because none of the existing gods built them. Think about that for a minute. There is much in the dark about where those spheres in the phlogiston came from as any other creature. What happens in the Feywild stays in the Feywild. Exactly. Yep. Would an extremely powerful mage be able to create a subplane like Dark Sun or Ravenloft? If not, how could you make such a plane? They can. In fact, I'm pretty sure there's some rules about creating demi-planes in earlier editions of D&D. It's very, very labor-intensive, I believe. It's quite difficult to do. It may even have like an extreme intelligence requirement to do so. Thanks, Ken. Sorry I missed that the first time. So you might be looking at, let's see, might even be in D&D Basic, the master rules for D&D Basic, for like rules for the immortals and things, because that's the sort of thing that characters that are ascend to demigod level do. They create their own demiplane. Just like a high-level, mid-level character would make a keep or a castle or a watchtower. I know you did a video on magic intelligent items. Have you thought about doing a video on living spells? I know there are a few of them. Yeah, I don't really use living spells in my games, so that would be a wholly researched one not from my personal experience. But it's an interesting concept, living spells. In fact, just spells of legend, like the different, like casting rituals and things and what's involved, that sort of thing. Titania is the queen of the summer court of the Feywild. And the summer court is essentially pretty Fey. Not necessarily good or evil. It's not really about good or evil. It's more about the seasons. Yeah, the Seelie Court. She's the queen of the Seelie Court. The consort of Oberon, I believe it is. Have to ask an Aboleth, I guess. Yeah. Well, maybe even the Aboleth aren't that old. We're talking like, you know, Cthulhu-esque oldness. Perhaps even something really ancient and terrible like Pale Night. Pale Night might know. But when the Oberth came through from the other universe that they were in, they might not have had any awareness of the ancient history of the universe that they were invading. But they are certainly old enough to have been around when the spheres were created in the phlogiston. Who knows? Maybe the spheres of the phlogiston were created in the future and sent back in the past, or maybe the D&D universe is going in reverse. Who knows? City druids. I really like the idea of city druids and city rangers. I cast Locate Starbucks. I summon rats. Yeah. Have a guy who wants to play a 5th edition Artificer, and I just started being both a DM and playing 5th edition. I would say no. Say no. Just say, look, just stick with what's in the book, please. Please, for my own sake. Let's all just get used to playing classic Dungeons and Dragons, and then once we've all found our legs and understand the game, then we can start playing something weird. And if they go, no, I want to play an Artificer, say, well, you need to learn how to cooperate and compromise, my friend. Otherwise, you're not going to play at all. Because we're buddies. Don't be a dick. There are 5 Starbucks in my area. I find that highly unlikely. I don't think there's even one Starbucks within 50 miles of where I am. Wait a minute. There might be a Starbucks in Tauranga. Could be. Tauranga is interesting as a city. It's an international shipping port. So you see some really big cruise ships and stuff coming through there. Oh, cool. Glad you enjoyed it, Lucas. Try watching the one on the Hound Archons next. That also talks about Celestia quite a bit. And I get, yeah, the Hound Archon video you'll quite enjoy. That's kind of like the next one in that series, I'd imagine. Did you just say that to a kid? Learn how to compromise, or you're not going to play. Well, everyone, we've passed by the 13 extra minutes that were bought by the Super Chats. Thank you very much. It's been a great live stream today. I've really enjoyed it. Sorry for the brief interruption of my mum coming and asking me if I wanted anything from the shop. And I'll get on to making that little walk around the property, the orchard video. Thanks, Steve. He's in bed now. Sent to his room. City of Flumps. Yeah. Or like a tiny gelatinous cube as a familiar. That'll be cool. Just go like a high-speed gelatinous cube that like rolls like a dice around the place. Boing, boing, boing. Like some sort of crazy jello. And it's so cute, and you want to like pet it, but it's like, no, don't. It's acidic. I'm gonna have to buy some special gloves. Plus 5 minutes for interruption. We're in extra time. Nice try though. All right, everybody. Catch you later. See you in the next stream on the weekend. Happy gaming. Be nice to each other. Survive your cyclones and hurricanes. Venture not into the deep dells of Florida. Don't self-destruct while I'm gone. Absolutely. Somebody homebrew a mini gelatinous cube familiar. Bouncing in, bouncing is missing from D&D. Yeah, maybe. Charge attacks, flanking, all sorts of things have gone the way of the dinosaur. And minions. I miss minions. Bring back minions. Okay, everybody. Catch you later. Thanks for tuning in.